Headland. Oh, right. And we also glazed over.
Dave Filoni made an appearance.
Yeah. He just like appeared out of the ether. What's up, everyone, and welcome to Star Wars Explained. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And this week we are just going to talk through our trip to LA that was about a week ago. We got to go out for the Acolyte premiere and a really exciting tour of Lucasfilm in Burbank, and just had a lot of fun, a lot to talk about. So we wanted to just focus on that and that experience.
Also, apologies for zero Q&A last Saturday. We didn't even warn you guys.
Oh, yeah, we meant to. We knew that there was going to be no Q&A. We at least warned people on our Patreon that we still answered all the questions, but we were like, we're gone. We can't shoot a video.
I just didn't want anyone to be alarmed.
Yeah, we were okay. This was not a taken situation. So we were in LA from Monday to Friday, flew out Monday. Tuesday was the big exciting day. We had never been a part of a roundtable in person like that.
Yeah, that was incredible. We were invited to go take a tour of the Lucasfilm building and like the entire Disney lot in Burbank. And they told us that not very many people get to go into that Lucasfilm office. You know, people can do tours of the San Francisco office, but this one is like kept a little more secret. So it was super special.
It was still pretty secretive. There was a moment where I had left my bag in a room, and I was like, oh, I forgot it, and I just kind of like jogged off to go get my bag, and people were like, where's he going, what's he doing? I'm like, oh, I just forgot my bag, I'm sorry.
Real quick, I gotta go talk to Dave Filoni. Just got a couple questions.
Real quick, I gotta kick in all the doors and look for Grogu. I'll be right back. But let's kind of go through that day. We first arrived, and they surprised us with a screening of the first episode of The Acolyte.
That was really, really cool. Got to talk to a lot of like admin folks at Lucasfilm that we kind of had been talking to online a little bit, but it was nice to put names to faces. So it was great meeting them. A couple of them were like, we love Pippin. And I was like, ah.
That was, yeah.
So as you can see, he's not here today because he got a little bit of a big head from finding out how big of a celebrity he was. So he's like, no pictures, please.
We'll see. Maybe he'll come in screaming like, I'm ready for my spotlight. But yeah, that like 3 people individually were like, we love your stuff. Pippin's adorable. Like, okay, well we just need to get him in all the videos. Force him in my lap.
It's true.
I'll be covered in scratches. But yeah, that's apparently the key.
Yeah.
Is just get Pippin in here.
So we got to see the very first episode of The Acolyte. And this was 2 days before the premiere.
Yes.
And so Leslye Headland herself came into the room and introduced herself. And we were like, oh my God. And said that you guys are going to be some of the very first people to see the episode. And we were like, okay. Like we were all just losing our minds quietly.
Yeah, it was great to see it on a big screen like that, and like just so close. It was a group of I should have counted, but Dimitri, Nikki, Carly, Kyle Katarn, Andy Reloads, us, Eric Voss from New Rock Stars. So yeah, it was like a small intimate group in like the Lucasfilm screening room. So that was really neat to be a part of.
And it was cool to meet all those other content creators too, because
yeah, of course.
Some of them we had met before, a lot of them we had never met, and they were all super, super nice, all very excited to see the episodes and talk to the creators. So it was fun hanging out.
Yeah, it's always fun to, we are on TikTok, but don't do as much there. So it's like, it's fun to get to meet other creators on other platforms.
Yeah. Like, yeah, we don't involve ourselves as much with the TikTok community. So it was just really cool to hear them talk about it and get some solid advice from them.
Yeah. So we went straight from the screening, basically building off of our excitement from seeing the episode. We went to the Roundtable, which we do have some footage from it, so we can show. It was basically just there was a coffee table there, but it was just it was just a round like chair/couch situation, not so much of a round table.
It was a circle of a bunch of very cool, cozy chairs, and then Leslye and Kristen Baver were on the couch together.
And I let Molly choose our seats, and she immediately sat right next to Grogu, which I was like, yeah, that makes sense. The whole thing was incredibly casual in a good way. Like, we've been part of digital roundtables before over Zoom, which every time I do one of those, I'm like a bundle of nerves. I was still nervous for this too, but just the way that it was all very relaxed and chill. And then Leslye was incredibly genuine and honest and very candid throughout the whole thing.
I mean, as soon as she sat down, she was like, I don't care what the schedule is. I'm going to be here talking with you guys for probably way too long, because she wanted to talk to us, like, candidly, genuinely, like, get our opinions, talk about her process. It was so incredible to see someone who is making Star Wars content be that candid and be that just like brutally honest with us, and that was the whole time we were there talking with her. It was so cool.
She talked about the process of creating at Lucasfilm. She talked about imposter syndrome. She talked about all kinds of things that I was like, oh, I didn't think we'd get into this. And really, it was just a discussion between Star Wars fans. It was very different from the digital roundtables where it's like one person at a time, ask your question. Instead, the whole thing, we were there for like 45 minutes or so before they had to rush her out somewhere else. But we just talked about Star Wars. And then, I think everyone got one or two questions in, but it was more like a natural progression of conversation rather than like, now it's my turn and I'm going to ask something completely unrelated.
Well, the digital roundtables that we normally do, they're more like what you would think for press. You have a question or two ahead of time, and you're ready to ask your question, and it's your turn, and then you ask it, and then it kind of like moves on. This was like more of a conversation hangout, which was cool.
It was very casual, and I just remember they filmed it. We got some footage from it, but I was like, I don't think we're going to get any audio from this.
Leslye was... I just keep saying the word candid and genuine.
That's what I keep saying too.
She dropped a couple F-bombs, you know. She's just like a normal person talking to normal people.
Yeah, it nothing felt like a canned response.
No.
Which it just felt completely different and unique. And yeah, I was like, what an opportunity to get to sit down with someone who loves this universe and also is getting to put their stamp on it, and that they didn't talk to us like it was all just for fluff pieces or whatever. She's like, no, I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Yeah. And you can really tell how devoted she has been and continues to be about this story and how much she's poured herself into it. I recently read an article, like the New York Times did one about Leslye Headland, and there was a quote in there between her and Kathleen Kennedy. And back in I think they started developing this in 2018.
Yeah.
And in 2019, the quote was from Kathleen Kennedy, and she said, "You've made a great Star Wars show. Now make a Leslye Headland show." And I was like, that speaks so loudly as a creator, just to know you've nailed it for Star Wars, and now you can really put your own personal touches into it, and it shows.
The Star Wars bones are there, and so now it's your turn to put the Leslye Headland spin on it.
Yeah.
And there was a video that came out a couple days ago now when this video comes out, but it was Dave Filoni talking with Leslye Headland. Oh, right. And we also glazed over.
Dave Filoni made an appearance.
Yeah. He just appeared out of the ether. Just all of a sudden he was standing next to me and I went, oh my God.
Yeah. None of us were prepared for that at all. He just kind of walked in and we were like, oh, okay. It makes sense Dave would be here. This is one of his offices, right?
Footage that we have it captures Carly and Kyle Katarn's response, which is just utter shock.
I think I just had a big goofy smile on my face the whole time, it's you.
I did too. I was just like, oh my God, you're here. But yeah, he stopped by basically to just introduce Leslye and say hello, and we took a quick photo, and then he probably went to go set up that interview because Leslye was wearing the exact same outfit that she did with us in that round table.
We were the warm-up
Yeah.
for Leslye and Dave's chit-chat.
They were like, get all your F-bombs out.
But that was really cool. He was super, super nice, took a picture with us, and yeah. And then as he was leaving, he was like, first he was like, I'm going to go work on other Star Wars that I can't talk about. And then he was like, have fun, Leslye. You have to do press.
Yeah.
Which was very Dave.
It does seem grueling. Like they went to the premiere. They did our roundtable, digital roundtables. It looks like they recorded a lot of stuff on that day. And then they went to London and did another premiere and did more interviews. And it's like, oh, it's just nonstop.
I can't imagine having to talk that much with so many different people about something that you've made that everyone cares a lot about, and Leslye clearly cares a lot about.
I brought up that video though because she and Dave talked about just George's obvious influence on them and using everything he did in the originals and prequels as like a North Star to always make sure it lines up with his philosophy on Star Wars. I think that Leslye did set out to make a good Star Wars story from her point of view and her fandom, which is deep and long and like Legends nerd, RPG nerd. But yeah, still making sure it wasn't just like all fan stuff all the time. It's also got to have like the heart and soul of George Lucas.
I do want to talk a little bit about what we talked about specifically because we don't have the audio, unfortunately, but we can kind of go through a couple of bullet points that we did talk about.
Moments that stood out to us.
Yeah, and so we've mentioned this before, but Leslye Headland made sure that in the writer's room and throughout the whole creation of the show, she had original trilogy fans, prequel fans, sequel trilogy fans, and then someone who didn't know anything about Star Wars, which I think that is like the perfect mixing pot of just creativity to be able to collaborate on a brand new Star Wars story.
I love having someone that hasn't watched Star Wars and knew nothing about it, and they have since then, but they just didn't have that deep connection to it, and they didn't treat every glup shitto as like precious.
Yeah,
for example.
You want an unbiased third party, for whatever number party it is, to be able to, offer up their thoughts and opinions.
Well, I think about when I was watching the second Fantastic Beasts movie for the Schmodown, because like I'm not huge into Harry Potter or any of that, but I was watching that movie and I was just like, who are these people and what are they talking about? And I just felt like it was too deep into the fandom for someone like me to really enjoy it. And so I think Star Wars has such a deep fandom, it's got to be hard to find the balance between pleasing diehard fans who have been here forever, but also you want something like the Acolyte to bring in new people, because it is a good entry point where it's like, as long as you know what a Jedi and a lightsaber is, like, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, a basic understanding of the Jedi and the Force, you're good. Like, she wanted to create a story that anyone could come into and watch and enjoy it and understand it. So you don't need any prior knowledge except for like, Jedi, the Force. That's pretty much it.
And I also like that it was a large writer's room, because I think that like Andor was written that way, and it just seems like that's a process that works, having a lot of different voices coming to the table and throwing out their ideas.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
I really liked hearing her talk about her choices for who was going to play these characters. She got her first choice for like everyone in the show and didn't have plans for anyone else. Like, I don't even think anyone really auditioned. She was just like, I want this person. She said that, yeah. I want this person. I want this person. And she got all of them.
Well, I love the way that she talked about it, where it wasn't so much I can get whoever I want. She was like, oh, I really hope they want to, because I wrote the role for them.
Right.
And then was like, I hope you like this, and given the script over.
Yeah, I'm sure she wasn't positive that they were going to get everybody. I think
she just said, like, if they pass on it, I have no other ideas. And we're like back to square one.
Yeah. So it was really cool hearing all of that. She talked a lot about how from the very beginning she wanted to write the leading role for a Black woman, and she wanted to make sure she had other Black women in the writer's room and on the design team, you know, every step of the way to, you know, offer up their advice, talk about their life experiences, and be able to, you know, really help her make the role feel right.
Right, instead of just assuming.
Yeah.
I liked her story surrounding Lee Jong-jae, who everyone calls JJ affectionately, that she wrote the role for him, having seen Squid Game, and then was talking to his agents, and they were basically like, I mean, he's like a huge star in South Korea, and they were like, he is just going to take roles where he gets to speak Korean, and we're going to pass on this.
Understandable for a huge star.
Yeah, like, basically, he doesn't have to perform in English. He's doing great.
Yeah.
And so she was like, we got to get him a script, which is like a big deal for a Star Wars project. But he got it and read it and was like, I would like to do a Star Wars. That's just a fun story.
She talked a little bit about Jonas and the Wookiee character of Kelnaka. Apparently wasn't always going to be a Wookiee character, but she talked about how after she watched Solo back in 2018, she loved Jonas's performance so much that she was like, I want to make this character a Wookiee, and I want to give Jonas a chance to play someone who is not a solidified legacy character. You know, he can make this character his own. I think she compared playing Chewbacca to like playing King Lear or something like that. You know, it's one of those roles where it's like you don't have a ton of wiggle room to put your own acting choices and spins on it because it's such a legacy character. So I thought that was really sweet and like so thoughtful that she was like, I want Jonas in this as a totally different, you know, Wookiee character.
His own Wookiee character.
Who is a Jedi.
That is a Jedi and has a lightsaber and uses the Force. And like, yeah, I really enjoyed that story as well. She specifically said she saw the deleted scene where Chewie and Han are having a snowball fight.
Yeah.
Which that even seemed unscripted. Like they put that on a line, and I figured it was just like Alden and Jonas having fun until Jonas like really hits Han with a snowball. And it's like, yeah, that's just we hadn't seen Chewie like that, and she was like, this guy has some good instincts for a Wookiee character, and I want him in my show. So yeah, just every story she had about the cast was really fun. I still want to know, she was like, I need Manny Jacinto for Chimere. And I'm like, why? Why do you need Jason from The Good Place to be in your very serious show? And I'm like, I love The Good Place. I love Jason, but he's like the most himbo of himbos, which is why I love him. But
yeah, he's kind of goofy.
Like, I want to know what it is about his performance. Now I'm having ideas, but I'll save them for later.
Yeah. And like what we've seen of him so far in the show, it lines up, I think. I think that is the perfect actor for that role.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job, but it's just, it's funny to me, just because Jason from Good Places.
He's got some solid, you know, I don't know if I want to say comedic, but it is comedic acting. It's not like slapstick or anything like that, but it's funny.
I agree. I did get a chance to ask my favorite interview question to whoever I get to interview. Asked her who her favorite background Star Wars character is, or just favorite weird off the wall thing, and she said she has always loved Zygerians, and I feel comfortable saying this because it was in one of the trailers released, but she was like, so I made a Zygerian Jedi. So there have been images and footage of her already.
She looks so good.
Which, yeah. So just that's what I would do if I had a Star Wars show. Not inundate everything with Zygerians, but like, yeah, we got a little side character. I want them to be a Zygerian.
Yeah. She talked about Thelans a little bit too.
Yeah.
And Jecki being Thelan or part Thelan. And I got to be like, yay, Ristal Sant's one of my faves. I did ask Leslye to talk about as much as she could without spoiling anything, the coven of witches that we see. And she couldn't go into much detail. And I honestly can barely remember what she said to me because she looked me right in my eyes. And I all I
you
heard
just heard
was
circus music.
Yeah.
So. Well, I remember what she said. And well, really, she just... you talked about witches and like how they're not completely new to Star Wars. We had the Night Sisters, and so she kind of jumped off that and was like, well, there is some inspiration from the Night Sisters, but I wouldn't compare them too much to them because they're more benevolent than the Night Sisters. I was like, okay, interesting.
Yeah, and she's talked about them in interviews and other things since then, saying that like they're kind of a representation of just how other people view the Force.
Right.
And that is very interesting.
Just another Force belief system.
Yeah. She actually, early on in the conversation, and also I want to say Kristen Baver did a great job. She kind of was warming up and giving a lot of good topics and questions. So thank you, Kristen. But there was a moment early on where Leslye was saying, you know, she cares so much about what she's created for Star Wars fans and for herself as a fan. And like she teared up a little bit. And we were all like, oh my God, because she was like, I really just want you guys to like this.
Well, this was the first time she was able to get actual feedback from people outside of Lucasfilm, as far as I know. That's what it sounded like to me. And so, yeah, like it was very emotional. She was nervous, started to cry a little bit. And then first of all, I have a lot of allergy issues sometimes when we go out to LA. So Molly was like, make sure you pack your tissues when we were coming out. And then I had them in my bag and I was sitting there oblivious. And Molly started to kick me because I was sitting right next to Leslye and she's like, get the tissues. And I was like, oh, and like I was able to give her some tissues.
Yeah.
But I have to give all the credit to you for that. It's like Kristen after the fact was like, thank you for doing that. And I was like, I was just sitting there like an idiot.
I didn't want to interrupt anyone, but I was just like, so that was just, you know, another part of our conversation that we keep saying genuine, but she was genuinely very emotional to be able to talk about this stuff. And then towards the end of our conversation, you know, she was talking about people specifically, like the creators specifically, and she turned to us and said, like, she thanked us personally for, like, our videos because she said before she was working directly with Lucasfilm, she would use our channel for research. And you know, before she had access to Pablo Hidalgo,
right.
She was using our channel, and I almost cried.
Yeah, that really surprised me and blew me away.
I was like, Leslye, stop.
Yeah. I'll be a substitute Pablo Hidalgo. I think I would be a poor substitute, but hey, you take what you can get.
Yeah.
Immediately I was like, God, I hope I didn't say anything wrong.
Well, she knows.
I'm just kidding.
We knew nothing until now, so.
I think we're running out of things that we talked about, at least that we can remember. Like, it was such a free-flowing conversation that it's difficult to piece it all back together after the fact. I know that I brought up like Star Wars books and how the Acolyte kind of feels like it is a Star Wars book come to life in the sense that the books for a long time have told stories outside of the Skywalker saga. And we brought up Legends, and she started talking about Legends and how she was a fan. And
yeah, she brought up Darth Treya at one point being kind of an inspiration, I assume, for the character of May. But yeah, it sounded like she was a huge Star Wars fan and Legends fan growing up, and she did role-playing games, and so like she's very well versed in the history of Star Wars storytelling.
And she also kind of turned the conversation about Traya, I think, into just a conversation about the Sith in general and making compelling Sith characters, or unlikable characters, I think is the way she put it, is that she wants to introduce a character that you aren't really supposed to root for, but you still wind up rooting for. And that is something that she has done in a lot of work, like Russian Doll. The main character of that, it has a lot of flaws.
If you've seen Russian Doll, then you'll understand that Natasha Lyonne's character is not the most likable person. She's not necessarily a good person, but, you know, throughout the journey of that show, I mean, she's the main character, and you are absolutely rooting for her. Yeah.
That's a good show. If you haven't seen it and you're looking for something to binge real quick before The Acolyte comes out, might be a good one. We liked it a lot years ago when we watched it, before we even knew The Acolyte was going to be a thing.
1 in 5 Americans have learn a new language on their bucket list. If that's you, make 2024 the year you finally check it off the list with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel's convenient courses teach you real-life conversation skills in different languages, so it's easy to learn how to order food, ask for directions, and more without having to consult an app while on vacation. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/Star Wars. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/Star Wars, spelled BABBEL.com/Star Wars. Rules and restrictions may apply.
But okay, I think now we're probably out of stuff to talk about, at least based on memory.
Yeah, I mean, go watch the other creators that were there. Go watch their stuff. They might remember.
Yeah, maybe we can all piece it together collectively.
I'm sure they remember more than we do, or at least like their specific questions that they asked.
Yeah. So yeah, from there, we went on a tour of Lucasfilm, led by the wonderful DJ, who did a great job and taught us a lot about not just the Lucasfilm office, but we went all around the Disney lot. He took us by a ton of different, still Star Wars related pieces, like the handprints of John Williams and George Lucas and Mark Hamill. I learned about the animation process and the secret tunnels that they had.
The secret tunnels, that's like the coolest thing. That's if I had to, you know, go back and choose one thing to do, I would be like, show me the tunnels. I'm sure they're like not that exciting, but he was telling us all about, you know, the design of the Disney lot and why the buildings look the way that they do, because all the offices of the animators back then needed sunlight. So there's like windows on every side of the walls that have offices, which is really neat. We saw where Walt Disney's office was.
I wanted to talk about why the tunnels exist.
Why
so
the tunnels
they could
exist.
Get animation cells from one building to another while it was raining. I'm like, oh, that's so smart.
And it was like, it doesn't rain often there, but when it does, you can't get that stuff wet. That's so much work.
We walked by the studio where the volume is, and I tried to cause a distraction so Molly could run in and look for Grogu, but
I was like, I'm sure there's a bathroom in there. I'll just go use it real quick.
Yeah, I'm just going to run in real fast. We saw just cool pieces of animation history, like how they developed new camera technology for animation.
Yeah, the multi-plane
I don't remember what that was called exactly, but it was really neat to see.
It was like different layers of drawings where they kind of stacked vertically and then filmed, which like...
So it was like the background, and then you'd have like trees and then buildings, and basically so the camera could move through the different layers, and it looked like it was being fully animated, but really it was just like 4 drawings that they could move through.
Right.
And it was faster.
I mean, there's a reason why Disney is Disney. You know, they're so smart.
Yeah. But it's like that thing was huge, and now you could do it in After Effects for just like knock it out on your computer. But back then, what they had to do to achieve those shots, I was like, that's wild.
Yeah. A lot of history in that lot was really special to be able to go see everything and walk around. And thanks to DJ, we got a great tour.
Yeah. Which ended, and they did give us some gifts that we wanted to point out. I wanted to specifically point out the Acolyte themed cup of noodles. There's that scene that was shown at the Phantom Menace, and we've seen it in the trailers where May fights Master and Dara, and it's in like a noodle shop. So they made a cup of noodles with Star Wars writing on it.
That's so cool. I don't want to eat them.
They also gave us our own little pips, which it's like a charger bank.
It's so smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were like, oh my God, we need one of these.
It's got Pip on it, of course, but they also gave us some stickers. And I really like this because they pointed out, and this is helpful for me because I absolutely missed it, but there are stickers on Pip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would decorate our water bottles or our laptops or something today. But they took those stickers, so there's like a Loth cat and some Star Wars imagery here. This has a checkerboard on it. I don't know. I'm going to assume that was for me and my boy Biggs. They were like, let's throw some checkerboards in there.
Yeah.
But we can decorate our own pips with the stickers, but also I wanted to point it out just so you could keep a lookout for some fun little Easter eggs in the first episode.
And like, we don't know what this says. I did ask, and they were like, we don't really know. But that little design is cool. This one looks kind of like the bongo ship from episode 1.
I feel like I've seen it on a helmet somewhere, and someone's going to immediately recognize it and shame me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, it definitely looks familiar, and I haven't taken the time to look for it. Moving on to Wednesday, that was the day in between all the Roundtable, Lucasfilm stuff, and then the premiere was on Thursday. So we just had a free day, so we just kind of wandered around, which was nice.
Amazing.
We usually don't have time to do that when we go to LA.
No, usually the trips are real quick, just like 1 or 2 days long, but to have a day in the middle to just like sleep in a little bit, walk around, explore. It was great.
We went and saw the Nightmare on Elm Street house. We saw a house from Halloween. We basically were just like, hey, what's around here that we can go look at that we've seen on the movies?
Yeah, we tried not to loiter for too long because they're in like residential neighborhoods, and we were like, at least the house from Nightmare on Elm Street still had like the red door. The house from Halloween was actually the babysitter's house, I believe, but it looks pretty different. So, and like the people were home and they were like looking at out their window like, get out of here, scram. We were
we did. We went to Melrose Avenue and walked around there and just like stumbled upon this place called Golden Apple Comics, which is apparently one of the oldest comic shops in LA. And so we were looking around and I saw that they had the Marvel #1 issue of Star Wars, which I don't think I've ever seen in person, so I was just admiring that.
Mm-hmm.
And then a very nice employee there named Robert said hello and recognized us and was like, oh, I didn't know you were local. And we're like, we're not. And so he was excited for us that we were going to go see the premiere. And then he showed me they had like just a box of old action figures, and I found the old vintage Rebel pilot. I don't know if that's supposed to be Luke or not, but...
just some bloke.
Yeah, I might be Luke. It kind of looks like Wedge. Anyway.
Its arms and legs are very loose.
I mean, it's like 50 years old.
But the box the bin that you got it in, it was like all really old little guys for like $5-10.
And the very first Star Wars action figure I ever bought was Luke in the Rebel pilot suit, because I always loved that, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I don't have the vintage one. I don't really think I have any vintage action figures from the OG era. So I was like, I'm going to get my first vintage Star Wars action figure, and it was appropriate that it was the Rebel pilot.
We also saw there was a cool R2-D2 like right when you walk in, and it's signed by a bunch of different people. I forget who it was that was the first to sign it. Was it Gene Simmons?
I was going to say it was Gene Simmons, so I think that was accurate. Might not be, but...
And it wasn't even like a, hey, we would like you to sign this R2-D2. You know, they had bought this really nice, you know, pristine R2-D2 replica.
I think he said he was going to sell it at some point, the owner of the comic shop.
And Gene Simmons was there for an event, a signing, something, and he was just like, he just leaned down and signed it and said, like, you're welcome, basically. He was like, oh, okay. I guess this is our signature R2 now, which is a funny story.
But yeah, it was signed by tons of different people.
Yeah.
The only one I remember is Sean Ashmore, I think. It's Sean or Aaron Ashmore that played Iceman in X-Men, and I was like, oh, Iceman!
Yeah, that was cool.
But I was like, it makes sense that he would come here. He was probably buying X-Men comics.
Yeah.
So that was our Wednesday. Then we were starting to meet up with friends because more people were coming in for the premiere. We met up with Force Center podcast, who we always love to see. Joseph and Ken had a great chat with them. And then
we got to go to the Spare Room, which is a cool little bar up a couple floors in the Roosevelt, which is where we stayed. But it has like its own little bowling alley in it, and they made great cocktails.
Yeah, really nice cocktails. Then Goose from Triad of the Force and Chase came, and so we were all just hanging out, and that's when things just really start to feel really good, when it's just a bunch of your Star Wars friends who you never get to see.
Yeah, all of our internet friends, who a lot of them we've already met in person and grown to love as close friends, but it's great to see fellow podcasters and stuff in person and be able to like say hi and hug. And
we really only get to see these people at Star Wars Celebration or other conventions, so anytime we get to hang out in person, it's always great.
Yeah.
It feels good. So Thursday, we kept the good times going, and we went to the Museum of Academy Arts of Motion Picture.
Sure.
I think that's
I
what
was
it was
just
called.
calling it the Academy Museum.
The Academy Museum?
I don't know its official title.
Well, we went there with Goose and Talking Bay 94
Brandon.
and Star Wars Thrifting.
Silver.
Yeah.
Real names. Wow.
Well, I was like, I was throwing out the podcast names for people. We took care of that.
Special shout out to Star Wars Thrifting, aka Silver, because she got us tickets to go to that. It was her idea, and I didn't even know that was there. So I was like, oh, cool, yeah, let's do this.
But we went specifically because the Dijkstraflex was there. Like the Dijkstraflex.
The original camera that they shot Star Wars on.
So we all went specifically for that. Still went and looked around at the other exhibits, which had some really cool Star Wars props, Marvel props, just lots of cool things to go look at and be like, I've seen that.
Mm-hmm. I guess I should say one of the original cameras they shot Star Wars with, because it was specifically built so that they could shoot the models with it, right? Because it had all these different motion controls on it. The thing is huge.
Yeah, it was the original motion controlled camera.
And they had like this big screen with a cool video playing that tells you all about the history and John Dykstra, who created it. It's really interesting.
I did love that there was like this young guy who was watching the exhibit, and we were all like, wow. And then he came up and was doing his job and was just wanted to tell us all about it and was very excited. And it's like, it's really neat. And I'm like, we all know, but it was fun to just hear someone young that was like, isn't this so cool? Like, how they make movies? Oh, it's magical. And I was like, yeah.
I'm not going to stop him from doing
no,
his job.
not at all. Like, that's, I loved it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny. That was like, we're all here specifically for this.
Yeah.
So that's what we got up to in the morning. And then that afternoon, evening was the premiere. So we all got dressed up, went and checked in, and got to walk down the red carpet with a bunch of other people. Well, we really walked by them while they were all like getting stopped and being interviewed. Yeah. And I was just walking down being like, there's Kristen Baver. There's Ahmed Best. There. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, Ahmed Best was there.
I think I took a picture of his back because I was like, oh, he's here.
Ahmed Best was there with his son.
Yeah.
He made a bunch of sweet posts on Instagram.
It's really interesting how the red carpet works physically, because there's kind of like 3 levels. There's like a layer kind of outside everything where a bunch of fans can stand. And then there's like in the middle where the real big celebrities will go walk down, and that's where most of the press are, and they're, interviewing and asking questions, and the Getty people are taking pictures. And then there's like a line behind all that where we went down.
Yeah.
We're like, okay.
We'll take our own pictures, thank you.
Yeah, but...
They're like, what are you wearing? Amazon! Amazon dress!
Yeah, so it's just cool to like know how that kind of stuff works. But like we did get to walk past a couple of the big celebrities. We got to see and take a picture with Imanis Fandi.
Yeah.
Which he was so incredibly nice. It makes me sick.
He took pictures with like everyone.
Yeah. And Cameron Monaghan was there rocking a white suit.
All right. One of my favorite stories from the night is that Cameron looked great in this white suit. And first, Chase, our friend, went up, and Chase was wearing like this awesome outfit and goes up and says, "You look great in the white suit." And he was like, "Thank you. You look great." And then I later went up and I was like, "You are rocking that white suit." And he said, "Thank you."
Thanks, man.
I was like,
I'm sure,
I'm just joking, because when Chase told me their story, I was like, oh. But it's okay, because I liked how I dressed, and so did Charles Soule, because we were wearing the same thing.
Twinsies.
Almost.
That was so adorable. He wanted to take a picture of the two of you because you were almost matching.
I mean, that made my day, really.
Well, we got to see a lot of the authors when we were at like the pool area of the Roosevelt right before we actually went down the red carpet. All the authors were there, and they like took a picture, and we were trying not to, disturb them or annoy them. It was just really awesome to just see all of them hanging out and chit-chatting and stuff.
I was so relieved that they were there. I was like, they had better be there. I know Justina Ireland, Cavan Scott, and George Mann weren't able to make it. So it was almost all of the authors. But I was just glad that they were able to walk the red carpet too. And it was cool seeing them just take all their pictures together. Because it's like, yeah, you all started this and crafted this, and they definitely deserve to see what they built up on the big screen.
What they helped create. This being our second trip down the red carpet and our second Star Wars premiere, it's so cool, but at the same time, like, it's so much sensory overload that I just feel so overwhelmed. And, we're seeing all these people that we know and people that I hadn't met yet. I got to see Jen Marie and take a picture with her, but they're kind of like pushing us to go further down the red carpet and being like, "There's more important people coming. Get out of here." So, if you spoke to us and I was just like a basket case, that I was just like so overwhelmed. So yeah,
it's insane people watching there.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we got to go in. They screened the first 2 episodes, so we saw the first episode again, followed up with episode 2, which it's always just fun to be in a room full of people who are excited and cheering, and I don't know. There's something about seeing Star Wars on the big screen that, of course, I super miss.
Yeah.
So
they all had their lightsabers out. It was really neat. And then if you didn't have a lightsaber, they had lightsaber churros, which were delicious.
They were really good.
I woofed mine down.
Yeah.
Like, I probably had sugar all over my face after that.
Not your Amazon dress.
I was so hungry.
Are you wearing glitter? It's cinnamon.
It's cinnamon sugar from the churros. I had 8. No, I'm kidding. I had 1.
Like General Grievous, pull 4 out. So yeah, when the premiere was over, we all went back to our hotel rooms, changed real quick, and then headed back out on the town, because what we did when we were able to go to the Andor premiere was go to Scum and Villainy Cantina, because it was karaoke night. And we were like, we're doing that again.
They do karaoke on Thursday nights?
Yep. It was way more crowded this time, because last time I sang probably too much. This time I only sang one song with Goose.
Like the very last song.
Yeah, one of the last ones.
We were there till about when they closed.
Yep.
But it was so fun.
It was real fun. I mean, you don't want the week to end. You don't want to have to already say goodbye to your friends. It's like we just saw each other for the first time last night, and now, you want to make it all count. I
think it was Star Wars Thrifting was taking videos, because towards the end of the night especially, they were doing all the banger songs, like a lot of 90s boy band songs, and we were just belting out, probably singing over whoever had the microphone. We were yelling so loud, but it was so fun, just to like hang out and just spend time with people that we don't normally get to.
Yeah. We stayed up way too late.
Way
drank
too
a
late.
little bit too much.
Look, they have themed drinks there. We had to try them all.
How can you say no? We got to the airport and I had like the grossest, most pawny sandwich I've ever seen. It had definite Paunch Burger vibes where
Well, the place was called Fat Sal's,
so they knew.
which we had never had before. And
It was right next to our gate.
yeah, and so we ordered our sandwiches on this like computer screen, and you pointed out that there's a thing on there that says make
it fatter.
make it fatter, which is like very Pawnee. When we reference Pawnee, that's from Parks and Recreation. And I just got like a turkey sandwich.
Well, I got the breakfast sandwich that had like 2 eggs, sausage, bacon, ham.
A mozzarella stick.
That was a surprise. There were tater tots in it, and I was like, this sounds like exactly what I need. And it was really good, and halfway through eating it, I was like, there's a mozzarella stick in this.
I kept finding new things to get excited about.
I loved it. Then shortly after I finished, thank God, Mike Seglain came up and like we were like, oh hi. I was like, thank goodness you weren't here 2 minutes earlier when I was covered in hot sauce and egg yolk.
He would have been like, I bet that is delicious.
Yeah. It wasn't my proudest moment, but it was a pretty good sandwich. I would eat it again. And that was it. We flew home and it was a successful trip. I still feel like we're recovering from it a bit because we were busy when we got home as well.
Yeah, sleep deprived still for several days after that, but I think we're leveled out now.
But yeah, it was an amazing trip. So, of course, thank you so much, Lucasfilm, for having us out. The Roundtable is definitely a career highlight, I would say. Like one of those things I'm going to remember forever, having done this channel that I never would have guessed we'd get to when I was just trying to win a trivia competition.
Everyone there was really, really nice. A lot of the Lucasfilm employees, you know, spoke to us personally, and we were like, we are so happy with what you guys do and proud of what you've accomplished in your community. And like, I could cry thinking about just the whole entire experience, and I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, everyone was so nice. It was a very validating experience. Just felt good. Like that's Star Wars. It was like a Star Wars celebration kind of thing where you go and you're just celebrating in person with other people who love Star Wars, and that's always when the Star Wars fandom feels like it's at its best.
Yeah.
When you're doing it in person and you're all talking and you're all excited. And here's one last thank you to the Lucasfilm people who love Pippin. I went and I got him out of his slumber just so he could say hello.
What a celebrity sighting.
What a treat. What a treat for everyone. Ow.
And we should thank you guys for watching our stuff, because if it weren't for you guys, no one would have noticed us and no one would have invited us to an event like this. So thank you guys for watching our stuff.
Yeah, thank you to all of our supporters and subscribers and viewers and patrons. It means the world to us. This was a crazy opportunity that, like I said, I never would have guessed we'd be able to have.
Yeah.
So thank you. So now that Pippin's getting all antsy, we're going to wrap it up. But that's it for today. I know this was different from our usual Q&A style video. We will be back to normal next week, so get your Acolyte questions ready. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky.
And as always, thanks for watching and for light and life.